Captain Sarah Chen stared at the view screen in horror. Below them, the beautiful blue world of Kepler 442b was burning. Bright flashes of light marked where the bombs fell. Each flash meant another Villani city was gone. Another million of Earth's first alien friends were dead. "Captain, we're getting emergency signals from the surface," said Lieutenant Torres from the communications station. His voice shook. "The Villani are asking for help. They want to know why the Galactic Council is attacking them." Sarah's hands gripped the arms of her captain's chair. The diplomatic ship Harmony's Edge was too small to fight. They had come here to sign a new trade agreement with the Villani. Instead, they were watching genocide. "How many council ships?" she asked. 200, maybe more," Torres replied. "All major species are represented. Saurian hegemony battleships, Hive collective carriers, even the peaceful Aquarian Federation has ships here." Sarah felt sick. The Aquarians had always seemed so gentle. To see their ships helping with this massacre was like watching her own. "Grandmother, commit murder." On the screen, another flash lit up the planet's surface. The Villani capital city of Crystal Falls had just been destroyed. Sarah remembered visiting there just 5 years ago. The Villani had welcomed her crew with music that sounded like wind chimes. Their leader, an ancient being named Elder Morthan, had given her a crystal that still sat on her desk back on Earth. "Captain," came a weak voice from the speakers. It was speaking in Villani, then switched to English. "This is Zarath of the Crystal Science Institute. Can anyone hear me?" Sarah grabbed the microphone. "This is Captain Chen of the Earth ship. Harmony's Edge. We hear you, Zarath." "Captain Chen, thank the crystals you are here. The council ships came without warning. They say we violated the technology sharing protocol by giving you our terraforming secrets without council approval. They are killing everyone. The orbital defense platforms are gone. Our ships are destroyed. There are so many of them." Sarah looked at her crew, 26 humans on a ship built for peace talks, watching their friends die. "Zarath, can you get to a shuttle? We can try to pick you up." "I am the only one left at the Institute. The others, they are gone. I have the complete database of our technology in my memory core. If I die, everything dies with me. All our knowledge, all our history. The Villani were crystal-based life forms. Their scientists could store vast amounts of information in their crystalline bodies. If Zarath died, thousands of years of Villani science would be lost forever." "We're coming to get you," Sarah said. "Send us your location." "No. The Council. Ships will destroy you. Your people need to know what is happening here. This is not just about us. I have accessed Council military communications. Earth is next on their list." Sarah's blood went cold. "What do you mean?" "They fear humans. You learn too fast. You adapt their technology and make it better. The Saurians convince the Council that humanity will become too powerful if allowed to grow. The attack on us is a warning to Earth. Submit to Council control or face the same fate." Lieutenant Torres looked up from his station. "Captain, we have a problem. Council ships are moving toward us. I count 12 vessels heading our way." On the main screen, Sarah could see the approaching ships. Saurian battleships with their distinctive curved hulls, Hive collective vessels that looked like giant insects. They were still far away, but not for long. "Zarath, we have to go. Can you reach an escape pod?" "I am trying. The building is damaged, but I think I can make it to the shuttle bay." "Wait. Something is happening." The transmission went quiet for long minutes. Sarah watched the approaching council ships and made a decision that would change everything. "Torres, send a message to Earth on all emergency channels. Tell them what we've seen here. Tell them the council is coming for us next. Lieutenant Kim, plot a course to the far side of the planet. We're going to try to rescue Zarath." "Captain, that's suicide," said Kim. "Those council ships will catch us before we can escape." "Maybe, but we can't leave her to die. The Villani saved us when we first reached the stars. They taught us how to travel between worlds. They welcomed us into galactic society when other species wanted to keep us isolated. We owe them everything. The Harmony's edge turned toward the planet. As they got closer, Sarah could see the damage more clearly. Entire continents were scarred by bombing. The beautiful crystal cities that had sparkled like diamonds were now fields of broken glass. Signal from the surface, Torres reported. It's Zarath. She made it to a shuttle. Put her through. Captain Chen, I am launching now. My shuttle has limited power, but I can reach orbit. Thank you for coming back for me. We don't leave friends behind, Sarah said simply. They waited in tense silence as Zarath's small shuttle climbed toward them. The Council ships were getting closer. Their weapons were probably already locked onto the Harmony's edge. Shuttle recovered, reported the docking bay chief. Zarath is aboard. Get us out of here, Sarah ordered. Maximum speed to the edge of the system. The ship shook as they accelerated. Behind them, the Council fleet moved to follow, but they were too slow. The Harmony's edge had been built with the latest human-improved engines. They were faster than the Council ships expected. As they reached the jump point, Sarah took one. Last look at Kepler 442b. The planet that had been so beautiful was now a smoking ruin. 12 billion Vallani were dead. An entire civilization had been erased in a single day. Zarath appeared on the bridge. She was about 7 feet tall, her body made of living crystal that caught and reflected the light. But her usual inner glow was dim with grief. They are all gone, she said quietly. My people, my world, everything. In 6 hours, the Council destroyed a civilization that had existed for 10,000 years. I'm sorry, Sarah said. We should have been here sooner. We should have done something. There was nothing you could have done. 200 ships against one, but you came back for me. That means something. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading back toward Earth, Zarath shared terrible news. She had intercepted Council military transmissions during the attack. The genocide of the Vallani was just the beginning. They plan to quarantine Earth, she explained. They will claim your planet harbors dangerous alien contamination from contact with us. Then they will demand complete control over human technology and expansion. If Earth refuses, they will do to you what they did to us. Sarah felt a cold anger building in her chest. The Council had murdered her friends, and now they wanted to enslave her people. But they had made one mistake. They had let one human ship escape. Earth would be warned. How long do we have? She asked. Maybe 6 months before they act. They will want to make it look legal under Council law. They will hold hearings, present evidence of human aggression, build support among member species. But the end result is already decided. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. During that time, Zarath shared everything she knew about Council, military capabilities, ship designs, and battle tactics. She also revealed secrets that her people had kept for centuries. The Council is not as strong as they appear, she said. Many member species joined because they were conquered, not because they wanted to. The Aquarians, the Silicon Builders, even some Saurian colonies would rebel if they thought they could win. When the Harmony's edge finally reached Earth orbit, Sarah knew her life as a diplomatic captain was over. War was coming, whether humanity wanted it or not. The question was whether Earth would be ready when the Council fleet arrived. As they docked at Geneva Station, Sarah looked at the blue world. Below, somewhere down there, human leaders were about to learn that their species' survival depended on doing something no one had ever done before, fighting the entire galactic government and winning. The age of human diplomacy was over. The age of human defiance was about to begin. Admiral Marcus Rodriguez stood in the deep bunker beneath Geneva, reading Captain Chen's report for the 3rd time. Each word made him angrier. The Vallani had been Earth's first real friends among the stars. Now they were extinct because they had helped humanity too much. 12 billion dead in 6 hours, he said to the assembled military leaders. And Earth is next unless we submit to Council control. General Williams from Earth Defense looked pale. How many ships can the Council bring against us? According to Zarath, probably 5,000 warships from 40 different species, Rodriguez replied. We have maybe 300 ships in our entire fleet. Then we surrender, said Admiral Chong from the Pacific Fleet. We negotiate, give them what they want, and hope they let us live. Rodriguez slammed his hand on the table. Give them what? Our freedom? Our right to explore the galaxy? The right to help our friends? He gestured to the holographic display showing images from Kepler 442b. Look at what they did to a peaceful species whose only crime was sharing technology with us. You think they'll let us live free? In the corner of the room, Zarath stood, silently. Her crystal body pulsed with soft light as she processed the human debate. Finally, she spoke. Admiral Rodriguez is correct. The Council does not negotiate with species they consider threats. They conquer or they destroy. There is no middle path. But we can't fight the entire galaxy, Chang protested. Rodriguez smiled grimly. Who says we have to fight fair? He activated a hidden holographic projector. The room filled with images of ships unlike anything in the official Earth fleet. Sleek, dark vessels with curved hulls and no visible weapons. Gentlemen, meet Project Lazarus. For the past 20 years, we've been building a shadow fleet in the asteroid belt. Ships the Council has never seen. Technology they don't know we possess. The military leaders stared in amazement. There were hundreds of ships in the images. Some were as large as battleships, others no bigger than fighters. All of them looked alien, incorporating design elements from a dozen different species. How is this possible? Asked General Williams. Simple. Every time an alien ship visited Earth, we scanned it. Every piece of technology the Villani shared. With us, we improved. Every diplomatic mission gave us new ideas. While the Council thought they were keeping us contained, we were learning everything they knew and making it better. Rodriguez brought up another display. This one showed ship construction facilities hidden throughout the solar system. Automated factories in the asteroid belt. Shipyards on the dark side of the moon. Construction platforms in the clouds of Jupiter. The official Earth fleet that the Council knows about is just for show. Our real military has been hiding in plain sight. We've been preparing for this war since the day we first met the Galactic Council. Zarath moved closer to examine the ship designs. Her crystal body began to glow brighter with excitement. These ships use quantum phase technology, she said. My people shared the basic principles with you, but this is far beyond what we achieved. How did you develop it so quickly? Human stubbornness, Rodriguez replied. Your people taught us that matter could exist in multiple quantum states. We figured out how to make entire ships phase in and out of normal space. Council sensors can't track what they can't see. Captain Chen, who had been silent during the briefing, finally spoke up. What about crews? We can build all the ships we want, but we need people to fly them. Already taken care of. We've been secretly training pilots for 15 years. Volunteers from every nation on Earth. They've been told they were training for deep space exploration missions. Now they know the truth. Rodriguez activated another display showing training facilities on Mars and the moons of Saturn. Thousands of men and women in flight suits were preparing for war. Every pilot has been training on simulators built with alien technology. They know how to fight ships they've never seen, using weapons the Council doesn't know exist. And they're all volunteers who understand what we're fighting for. The mood in the room was shifting. What had seemed like hopeless defeat was beginning to look like a possible victory. But Zarath raised a disturbing point. Even with superior technology, you are still outnumbered 15-1. The Council has resources from hundreds of worlds. How can Earth sustain a long war? Rodriguez's smile became predatory. We're not planning a long war. We're planning to end this quickly and permanently. Zarath, your people kept records of every Council military installation, didn't they? Yes. As members of the Council, we had access to strategic databases. But why? Because we're not going to fight a defensive war. We're going to hit them everywhere at once. Destroy their shipyards, their supply bases, their communication networks. Turn their size against them. He brought up a galactic map showing thousands of red dots. Each one represented a Council military facility. While they're sending a fleet to attack Earth, we'll be destroying their ability to build new ships or coordinate their forces. By the time they realize what's happening, it'll be too late. General Williams looked worried. That's a lot of targets. We'd need perfect intelligence and split-second timing. We have both, Rodriguez said. Zarath has the complete Council military database in her memory, and our quantum communication system can coordinate attacks across the entire galaxy simultaneously. This was news to everyone except Rodriguez. Human scientists had been working on instantaneous communication for decades, finally achieving it by combining human quantum theory with Vellani crystal technology. The Council still uses light-speed communications, he explained. It takes months for messages to cross the galaxy. We can coordinate our forces in real time. It's like fighting blind enemies while we have perfect vision. Zarath was studying the tactical displays with growing amazement. This plan could actually work, but it requires precise knowledge of Council fleet movements and defensive positions, which you can provide, Rodriguez said. Your people mapped every Council installation over the centuries. You know their patrol routes, their supply schedules, their defensive weaknesses. I do. But there is something else you should know. Zarath's glow dimmed slightly. The Council's power does not come only from military might. They control the galaxy through fear and the belief that resistance is hopeless. If humanity could prove that the Council can be defeated, other species might rebel, Rodriguez finished. Turn this from a war between Earth and the Council into a galactic civil war. Exactly. Many species joined the Council because they had no choice. The Aquarians were conquered 300 years ago. The Silicon builders were forced to join after their worlds were blockaded. Even some Saurian colonies hate the Central. Government, if they saw a chance to be free, Rodriguez nodded. Then we don't just save Earth. We liberate the galaxy. The meeting continued for hours as they refined the plan. By the end, everyone understood their role. The official Earth fleet would make a show of preparing defenses around the planet. Meanwhile, the Shadow Fleet would deploy throughout the galaxy, striking at Council infrastructure and offering support to any species willing to rebel. As the meeting broke up, Captain Chen approached Rodriguez privately. Sir, there's something I need to tell you. During our escape from Kepler 442b, I saw how the Council ships fought. They're used to enemies who follow the same rules they do. Formal battle lines, agreed-upon weapons, civilized warfare. And we don't follow those rules, Rodriguez said with satisfaction. Exactly. They'll expect us to meet their fleet in open battle and die honorably. Instead, we're going to hit them like pirates and vanish. They're not prepared for that kind of fight. Rodriguez looked at the tactical displays still glowing around them. In 6 months, the largest war in galactic history would begin, but it wouldn't be the war the Council expected. Captain, I'm promoting you to Admiral and giving you command of the Stealth Strike Force. You've seen what the Council does to peaceful species. I want you to show them what humans do to murderers. Chen's eyes hardened. It will be my pleasure, sir. As the human leaders left the bunker to begin preparations, Zarath remained behind, studying the ship designs and battle plans. For the first time since her world died, she felt something other than grief. She felt hope. The Council had made their greatest mistake when they decided to threaten humanity. They had united a species that was naturally competitive and aggressive into a single focused force. Worse, they had given humans a cause worth fighting for, justice for the Vellani and freedom for the galaxy. In 6 months, the Council would send their fleet to crush Earth. They would find a fight unlike anything in their history, and somewhere among the stars, the ghosts of 12 billion Vellani would finally have their revenge. Supreme Admiral Kratok of the Saurian hegemony stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue world of Earth grow larger on the view screen. Behind him stretched the greatest fleet in galactic history, 1,000 warships from every major council species. It was enough firepower to crack a planet in half. Still no response from the human government? He asked his communications officer. No, sir. They received our ultimatum 6 months ago. Submit to council authority or face the consequences. They chose silence. Kretak's reptilian features twisted into what might have been a smile. Then they have chosen death. Begin scanning for their defense fleet. The sensor officer, a multi-armed being from the Hive Collective, worked frantically at his controls. After several minutes, he looked up in confusion. Admiral, I'm detecting only minimal orbital defenses. A few small stations, some patrol craft. Nothing that could threaten our fleet. Where is their military? Kretak demanded. Intelligence. Reported they had 300 warships. Unknown, sir. But I am detecting a message buoy in our path. It appears to be broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it on the main screen. The image that appeared was of a human woman in military uniform. Kretak recognized her from the files. Admiral Sarah Chen, the captain who had escaped from Kepler 442b during the Volani cleansing. Greetings, Council Fleet, Chen's recorded message began. I am Admiral Chen of the Terran Federation. You have come here seeking to enslave or destroy my people. You killed our friends. You massacred an entire species because they helped us. Now you face the consequences of your actions, Kretak hissed in annoyance. Human bravado. Continue the advance. But Chen's message wasn't finished. You expect to find us cowering behind our planet's defenses, begging for mercy like the other species you've conquered. Instead, you'll find that humans don't fight the way you think we do. We don't wait for our enemies to come to us, we hunt them. The transmission ended, leaving the Council fleet advancing through empty space toward Earth. Kretak was about to order weapons charged when his sensor officer screamed. Admiral, ships appearing all around us. I count hundreds of vessels. The view screen filled with images of sleek, dark ships materializing out of nothing. They seemed to phase into reality like ghosts becoming solid. Within seconds, the Council fleet found itself surrounded by an enemy that hadn't been there moments before. Impossible, Kretak breathed. Our sensors would have detected them. They're using some kind of quantum phase technology, the sensor officer reported. Our targeting systems can't get a solid lock. They're shifting in and out of normal space. The human ships opened fire, but instead of the massive energy weapons the Council expected, they used precision-guided antimatter torpedoes that seemed to know exactly where to hit. Council ships began exploding as their power cores were targeted with surgical accuracy. Return fire, Kretak ordered. All ships, open fire! The Council fleet responded with devastating barrages of plasma cannons and particle beams. But their shots passed through empty space where the human ships had been microseconds before. The enemy vessels phased out of reality just long enough to avoid the attacks, then reappeared to strike again. On the bridge of the stealth destroyer Volani's Light, Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold on her tactical display. The Council. Ships were fighting exactly as predicted, like a traditional fleet expecting a traditional battle. Target their command ships first, she ordered. Cut off their coordination. Her ship phased back into normal space just long enough to launch, a spread of torpedoes at a Saurian battleship. The weapons found their target before the enemy could react, and another Council vessel became an expanding ball of plasma. Admiral, reported her tactical officer, we're getting requests for assistance from the other strike groups. They want to join the main battle. Negative. This is just a distraction. Our real mission is the infrastructure strikes. Order all groups to proceed with Operation Reckoning. While the Council fleet fought desperately against the ghost ships around Earth, human strike forces were materializing throughout the galaxy. At the same moment Chen's forces engaged the main fleet, 200 separate attacks began on Council military installations. The Saurian shipyards at Theta Draconis exploded as human stealth ships emerged from quantum phase and destroyed the construction facilities with coordinated strikes. The Hive Collective's main communication hub went dark as antimatter warheads vaporized the massive relay station. Supply depots, training facilities, and patrol bases across 40 systems came under simultaneous attack. Back at Earth, the Council fleet was learning the hard way that humans didn't fight by the established rules of galactic warfare. Instead of honorable fleet engagements, the human ships struck like pirates, appearing suddenly, hitting hard, and vanishing before the enemy could respond. Kratok watched his fleet being systematically destroyed by an enemy he couldn't properly target. "How many ships have we lost?" 300 and counting, his aide reported. "Admiral, we need to withdraw and regroup. We outnumber them 3-1. How can we be losing?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Zarath's voice filled the bridge as she hacked into the Council's communication system from her position aboard Chen's flagship. "Because you fight like the civilized conquerors you pretend to be," the Villani's crystalline tones rang through the Council ship. "Humans fight like the survivors they actually are. They don't care about honor or fair fights. They care about winning and protecting their people." "The Villani survivor," Kratok snarled. "I should have made sure she died with the rest of her kind." "You tried," Zarath replied calmly. "You killed 12 billion of my people in 6 hours. You turned my beautiful world into a graveyard. But you made one mistake. You let one human ship escape. And humans, I have learned, never forget their friends or forgive their enemies." Around the Council fleet, the human ships were implementing new tactics. Instead of just phasing in and out randomly, they were coordinating their attacks. Groups of ships would appear simultaneously from different directions, overwhelm a single target with concentrated fire, then vanish before the surrounding ships could respond. "Admiral Chen to all human vessels," came the transmission. "Begin Phase 2. Target their supply ships and support vessels." The Council fleet watched in growing horror as their logistics ships began exploding. Ammunition carriers, fuel tankers, mobile repair stations, all the unglamorous but essential vessels that kept a fleet operating, came under precise attack. Kratok realized with growing dread that the humans weren't trying to win a glorious battle. They were trying to destroy the Council's ability to wage war. Every supply ship lost meant his remaining vessels had less ammunition, less fuel, fewer repair options. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we're receiving distress calls from across the galaxy. Our bases in the Centauri sector are under attack. The shipyards at Wolf 359 are gone. The communication relay at Vega has been destroyed. Impossible. How can they be everywhere at once?" The answer was quantum communication technology that allowed human forces to coordinate their attacks across vast distances in real time. While the Council's messages took hours or days to cross space, human commanders could talk to each other instantly. Chen's voice came over the communication system again. "Council fleet, you are hereby ordered to surrender. Your infrastructure is being systematically destroyed. Your supply lines are cut. You have no hope of reinforcement or resupply." "We will never surrender to primitives," Kratok roared. "Then you will die for your pride," Chen replied. "All human ships, execute final phase." The remaining human vessels, which had been fighting as individual units, suddenly formed into coordinated attack formations. They appeared in perfect synchronization around the largest Council ships, unleashing concentrated barrages that overwhelmed even the heaviest defenses. One by one, the Council's proudest battleships were reduced to expanding clouds of debris. The species that had ruled the galaxy for centuries found themselves helpless against an enemy that refused to fight by their rules. As the last Council command ship exploded, Kratok's aide approached him with a grim report. "Sir, we've lost contact with over half our bases across the galaxy. The humans have destroyed 60% of our shipbuilding capacity and 70% of our communication network." Kratok stared at the tactical display showing his shattered fleet. "In Less than 6 hours, the humans had done to the Council what the Council had done to the Villani. But where the Council had used overwhelming force against a peaceful target, the humans had used intelligence, technology, and tactics against a military force that thought itself invincible. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a general transmission from across the galaxy. Multiple species are declaring independence from the Council. The Aquarians have seized their homeworld. The Silicon Builders are in open revolt. Even some of our own colonies are rebelling." The true scope of the human strategy became clear. This hadn't been just a battle to defend Earth. It had been the opening move in a galactic revolution. By proving that the Council could be defeated, the humans had inspired every oppressed species to rise up. Kratak's ship, one of the few Council vessels still functional, began to... News of humanity's victory at Earth spread across the galaxy faster than the Council's leaders thought possible. Within days, species that had been enslaved for centuries began to rise up. The carefully maintained order that had kept the galaxy under Council control for 3,000 years was crumbling. Admiral Rodriguez stood in the war room on Earth, watching reports flood in from across the stars. The holographic display showed rebellion breaking out on hundreds of worlds. Red dots marked Council forces, blue showed human ships, and green indicated newly liberated species joining the fight. "The Aquarians have taken back their 3 core worlds," reported General Williams. "Their psychic abilities let them coordinate resistance without using communication systems the Council can intercept. The Silicon Builders have shut down all Council infrastructure in their sector," added Admiral Chong. "Without their maintenance, the Council's automated defense systems are failing across 12 systems." Rodriguez smiled grimly. "And the Delphinians?" 47. Worlds in open revolt. They're using their bioships to hit Council supply convoys. The Council can't fight them because their vessels look like space whales until they attack. Captain Torres, now promoted to Admiral after distinguished service in the Earth battle, brought up a new display. "Sir, we've also received this." The hologram showed a tall, elegant being with flowing energy patterns where humans had solid matter. Rodriguez recognized the species, the Luminary, one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the energy being said in a voice like music. "I am Speaker Veltara of the Luminary Collective. We have watched your battles with great interest. For 1,000 years, we have remained neutral in galactic affairs. Today, we choose a side." Rodriguez leaned forward. "The Luminary controlled the most advanced technology in known space. Their alliance could tip the war decisively. The Council believes they rule through strength," Veltara continued. "But true strength comes from unity, chosen freely, not imposed, through fear. We offer our knowledge and our ships to the liberation forces." The transmission ended with coordinates for a meeting point in the Vega system. Rodriguez immediately dispatched Admiral Chen and Zarath to make contact with the Luminary. But the Council wasn't giving up without a fight. Reports began coming in of massive retaliation strikes against rebel worlds. The Saurian hegemony was using planet-killer weapons against civilian populations. The Hive Collective was releasing bioweapons that turned entire ecosystems toxic. "They're trying to terrorize everyone back into submission," Rodriguez realized. "Show the galaxy that rebellion means extinction." Admiral Torres pulled up a disturbing report. "Sir, we've lost contact with the Aquarian homeworld. Before the signal cut out, they reported a massive Council fleet jumping into their system." Rodriguez felt a cold anger building in his chest. The Council was repeating what they had done to the Villani, genocide as a tool of control. But this time, humanity was ready to respond. "Launch Operation Reckoning Phase 2, he ordered. "All available ships to hit Council population centers. If they want to kill civilians, they can explain to their own people why human ships are bombing their core worlds." The war was escalating beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen, instead of the careful, limited conflicts that had maintained. Council power for millennia. This was becoming a total war where everything was a target. Admiral Chen's voice came through the quantum communicator from the Vega system. Admiral Rodriguez, you need to see this. The Luminari have brought us to something incredible. The transmission showed a massive space station hidden in the Vega Nebula. It was clearly ancient, built by a technology far beyond even the Luminaries. Advanced capabilities. This is the Museum of Conquered Peoples, Chen reported. The Council has been keeping representatives of every species they've destroyed. Billions of beings in suspended animation, preserved as trophies of their conquests. Rodriguez stared at the images in horror and amazement. How many species? Over 300, came Zarath's crystalline voice. Some extinct for thousands of years. The Council told the galaxy these species had died out naturally or destroyed themselves in wars. They lied. The Council murdered them all and kept samples like museum pieces. The implications were staggering. The Council wasn't just a tyrannical government. They were galactic-scale serial killers who had been committing genocide for millennia. Can we wake them up? Rodriguez asked. The Luminari believe so, Chen replied. But we need to capture the station first. It's heavily defended, and the Council will probably try to destroy it rather than let us reveal their crimes. Rodriguez made a decision that would define the rest of the war. Admiral Chen, you are authorized to use whatever force necessary to capture that station. The galaxy needs to see what the Council really is. The assault on the Museum of Conquered Peoples became the largest single battle of the war. Human stealth ships, luminary energy vessels, and rebels from a dozen species converged on the hidden station. The Council defenders fought desperately, knowing that discovery of the museum would turn even their own people against them. Admiral Chen led the attack personally, her ship, Villani's Light, phasing through the station's shields to deliver boarding parties directly into the control sections. The fighting was brutal as Council forces tried to reach the museum's main computer to trigger a self-destruct sequence. Zarath, connected to the ship's systems through Villani bio-neural interfaces, raced through the station's database to prevent the destruction of millions of lives. Her crystalline consciousness merged with the ancient computers, battling Council security programs to save the sleeping populations. I'm in, she reported, beginning revival sequences for priority species. But Admiral, you need to see this. The museum's records contain the complete history of the Council's rise to power. The data that flowed into the human ships revealed the Council's greatest secret. They weren't the ancient, noble civilization they claimed to be. 3,000 years ago, they had been a small alliance of aggressive species who had discovered and destroyed the galaxy's previous democratic federation. The Federation of Free Worlds, Zarath read from the stolen records. A voluntary alliance of over 1,000 species that had maintained peace for 10,000 years. The Council found their capital, used bioweapons to kill the leadership, then spent centuries hunting down and destroying every member species. The evidence was overwhelming. The Council had built their empire on the bones of a better civilization, then spent millennia covering up their crimes by committing more genocides. As revival pods throughout the museum began opening, representatives of species thought extinct for centuries awakened to a changed galaxy. The first to emerge was a graceful being, with wings like a butterfly and eyes that seemed to hold starlight. I am Counselor Aria of the Etherian Republic, she said in a voice like silver bells. What year is this? What has become of the Federation? Admiral. Chen knelt beside the revival pod. The Federation fell 3,000 years ago. The Council destroyed it and told the galaxy it never existed. But we're building something new, a chance for all species to be free again. As word of the museum's discovery spread across the galaxy, the rebellion became a revolution. Species that had served the Council for generations learned that their governments were built on lies and murder. Even many Saurians and Hive Collective members began deserting to the liberation forces. But the Council had one final desperate card to play. Deep in the galactic core, in a hidden base built from the remains of the Federation's capital world, they were preparing to deploy their ultimate weapon, a device that could sterilize entire solar systems by igniting their stars. If we cannot rule the galaxy, transmitted Council Supreme Leader Morgath from his hidden fortress, then no one will have it. We will burn every world that has rebelled and start over with the survivors. The transmission was intercepted by human intelligence networks, but the location of the weapon remained hidden. The Council had learned from humanity's tactics and was now using quantum phase technology to hide their final base. Rodriguez stared at the tactical displays showing the scope of the war. Hundreds of worlds were in rebellion, but millions more remained under Council control. If the Council deployed their Starkiller weapon, it could end the rebellion by simple genocide on an unimaginable scale. "Sir," Admiral Torres reported, "we're detecting massive energy buildups in 17 different systems. The Council is preparing to use their planet killers against the rebel worlds." "How long do we have?" "Maybe 48 hours before they can fire." Rodriguez looked around the war room at his exhausted staff. They had come so far, saved so many worlds, but now faced an enemy willing to destroy everything rather than lose control. "Get me Admiral Chen," he said. "It's time for the final phase." The liberation of the galaxy would require one last desperate gamble. Human ships and their allies would have to find and destroy the Council's ultimate weapon before it could be used. The alternative was the extinction of every species that had dared to seek freedom. The revolution that had begun with the murder of the Vellani was about to reach its climax in the ruins of the Federation's ancient capital. And somewhere, in the quantum phase between realities, the ghosts of the final arbiter emerged from quantum phase like a nightmare becoming real. The massive vessel was built from the twisted remains of the Federation's ancient capital world, its hull formed from the graveyards of 1,000 extinct civilizations. At 20 kilometers long, it was less a ship than a mobile planet dedicated to destruction. Admiral Chen watched from the bridge of her flagship, Vellani's Promise, as the monster ship powered up its star-killer weapon. Around her, the largest fleet in galactic history had assembled. Humans, Luminary, Aquarians, Silicon Builders, Delphinians, and dozens of other species united in the cause of freedom. "Energy readings are off the charts," reported her tactical officer. "That thing has enough power to ignite Sol and turn our entire system into a supernova." On the main screen, Council Supreme Leader Morgath appeared. The ancient Saurian's scales were black with age, and his eyes burned with the madness of absolute power corrupted beyond redemption. "Rebel scum," he hissed. "You think you can destroy 3,000 years of order? Watch as I burn your precious Earth to cosmic dust. Your species will join the Vellani in extinction, and the galaxy will remember why the Council rules." Chen activated her own transmitter, her voice carrying across every ship in the Liberation Fleet. "This is Admiral Chen to all vessels. That monster represents everything we've been fighting against. 3,000 years of genocide, slavery, and lies. Today, we end it forever." Behind her, Zareth stood connected to the ship's systems through dozens of crystal filaments. The Vellani's consciousness had grown beyond her original form, becoming something new. Part alien, part human technology, pure justice given digital form. "Admiral," Zareth said, her voice echoing with the memories of 12 billion dead Vellani, "I'm detecting something strange about the final arbiter's power source. It's not just drawing energy from conventional reactors." "What do you mean?" "The ship is powered by absorbed life force from extinct civilizations. Every species the Council destroyed, their essence was somehow captured and used to fuel this weapon. The anger, the pain, the desire for justice, it's all trapped inside that ship's core." Chen felt a chill run down her spine. The Council hadn't just committed genocide, they had enslaved the very souls of their victims to power their ultimate weapon. Can we use that against them? Zarath's crystal form pulsed with sudden understanding. Yes, the original Federation built compassion protocols into all their technology, safeguards that prevented weapons from being used against innocent life. The Council could never completely remove those protocols. They're built into the quantum structure of the materials themselves. The final Arbiter's Star Killer weapon began charging, its energy readings climbing toward critical levels. In minutes, it would fire and reduce the Sol system to an expanding ball of plasma. "All ships, begin attack run," Chen ordered. "Target the weapon arrays and power conduits." The Liberation Fleet surged forward, thousands of ships from dozens of species united in desperate purpose. But the final Arbiter's defenses were beyond anything they had faced. Energy shields that could deflect entire fleets, point defense systems that turned space into a web of deadly fire. Ship after ship fell to the monster's weapons. Brave Aquarian pilots died trying to reach the weapon ports. Silicon builder vessels sacrificed themselves to clear paths for human stealth ships. The Luminari threw their energy forms directly at the shields, burning themselves out in futile attempts to penetrate the defenses. "We're not making a dent," Chen's tactical officer reported. "Our weapons can't penetrate those shields." Chen looked at Zarath, seeing her friend's crystalline form flickering with increasing intensity. "There's another way, isn't there?" "Yes," Zarath replied quietly. "But it requires a complete fusion of my consciousness with the ship's targeting systems. I would have to merge permanently with the quantum matrix, becoming part of the weapon itself." "What would that accomplish?" "I carry the memory patterns of 12 billion Villani in my crystal core. But more than that, through the museum records, I've absorbed the essence patterns of hundreds of extinct species. If I merge with your targeting system, I can create a resonance cascade that will awaken the compassion protocols in the final Arbiter," Chen understood immediately. The weapon powered by the souls of the dead would be turned against itself by those same souls demanding justice. "Zarath, you don't have to do this. We can find another way." "No, Admiral. This is why I survived when my people died. This is my purpose." The Villani's voice carried infinite sadness and absolute determination. "My people taught you to reach for the stars. Let me teach you one final lesson. Sometimes the greatest victory requires the ultimate sacrifice." Before Chen could protest, Zarath began the fusion process. Crystal filaments spread throughout the ship's systems, carrying her consciousness into every circuit, every sensor, every weapon array. The ship itself began to glow with inner light as alien technology merged with human engineering. "Fusion complete," Zarath announced, her voice now coming from the ship itself. "Admiral, target the final Arbiter's weapon core. I will guide our weapons through the shields." Chen gave the order, knowing she was asking her friend to die. The Villani's promise fired every weapon it had, streams of antimatter and quantum torpedoes racing toward the enemy vessel. But instead of being deflected by the shields, the weapons passed through as if the barriers didn't exist. Inside the final Arbiter, alarms began screaming as the ship's own systems turned against it. The absorbed essence of extinct civilizations, awakened by Zarath's sacrifice, began demanding justice from their captors. 3,000 years of suppressed compassion protocols activated simultaneously. "Impossible!" Morgath screamed as his own ship's weapons powered down. "The weapon cannot fire! Something is interfering with the targeting systems." Zarath's voice echoed through both ships, carrying the memories of 1 billion extinct voices. "We are the species you destroyed. We are the civilizations you erased. We are the children you murdered and the dreams you crushed, and we say, no more." The final Arbiter began tearing itself apart as its own power source rebelled. The trapped essences of dead species flooded through the ship's systems, overloading every circuit with the accumulated pain and anger of 3 millennia of genocide. But instead of exploding, something miraculous happened. The ship's quantum, core stabilized into a new configuration, powered now not by stolen death but by chosen sacrifice. The final arbiter transformed from an instrument of destruction into something else entirely, a memorial to every species that had died fighting for freedom. Morgath's final transmission was filled with disbelief. "What have you done? How can compassion defeat power?" Chen's reply carried the weight of humanity's greatest lesson. Because power without compassion always destroys itself eventually. You built your empire on fear and death. We built our resistance on hope and friendship. Only one of those can last forever. The Council's ultimate weapon became their final defeat. As news of the final Arbiter's transformation spread across the galaxy, the last Council forces surrendered or fled to unknown space. The war that had begun with the genocide of the Villani ended with the liberation of countless species. 6 months later, Admiral Chen stood in the memorial garden built where the Council's throne world had once been. The garden was grown from Zarath's transformed consciousness, a living crystal forest where the voices of extinct species could still be heard by those who listened carefully. The new Galactic Federation is holding its first assembly next week, reported Admiral Rodriguez, who had traveled from Earth for the ceremony. Representatives from over 1,000 species, more than even the original Federation had. Chen touched one of the crystal trees, feeling the warm pulse of her friend's continued existence. She would have loved to see this. A galaxy where different species work together instead of conquering each other. "She is seeing it," came a familiar voice. Chen turned to see Elder Morthen, the ancient Villani leader who had somehow survived in the museum's preservation systems. Zarath became something beyond individual consciousness. She is part of the quantum structure of space itself now, watching over all of us. The memorial service was attended by beings from across the galaxy. Humans who had started the rebellion, Luminari who had provided the technology, Aquarians who had inspired the uprising, and dozens of other species who had found their freedom. But the most important attendees were the empty spaces reserved for those who couldn't be there. The Villani, the Etherians, the hundreds of species that had died before humanity arrived to change the balance of power. Their sacrifice had not been forgotten. Chen read the inscription that had been carved into the memorial's central crystal in 100 different languages. To all who died fighting for freedom, and to all who live because they did. The galaxy remembers. As the ceremony ended and the various species began to depart for their homeworlds, Chen remained behind with a small group of human officers. They stood in silence among the crystal trees, listening to the faint music that seemed to come from the trees themselves. "Admiral," asked a young lieutenant, "do you think we did the right thing? All the death, all the destruction we caused?" Chen considered the question carefully. "We didn't start this war."
Commander Alan Wright stood on the observation deck of Earth Defense Station Alpha, his weathered face reflecting in the reinforced glass as he stared into the vast emptiness of space. But space wasn't empty today. Hundreds of alien ships from the Galactic Coalition were moving, their engines glowing bright blue against the blackness. They were leaving. "They can't be serious," Alan whispered, pressing his palm against the cold glass. Lieutenant Kelly Barnes rushed to his side, her boots echoing on the metal floor. "Sir, we're receiving automated departure notices from all Coalition vessels. No explanations, just goodbye messages." Alan's jaw tightened. For 15 years, humanity had been the newest member of the Galactic Coalition. For 15 years, they had been looked down upon as primitives, as children playing with dangerous toys. Yet when border disputes broke out, it was human soldiers who volunteered first. Human ships that took the front lines. "Get me Ambassador Zixtal," Alan ordered, turning from the window. Now. The communication center buzzed with frantic activity. Officers in blue uniforms moved between stations, their faces painted with confusion and fear. On the main screen, Displays showed coalition ships activating their jump drives one by one, disappearing in flashes of light. "Sir, the Meridian Embassy ship is the only one responding," said Communications Officer Doug Peterson, his fingers dancing across the control panel. "Ambassador Zixtal is coming through." The screen flickered, revealing the tall, blue-skinned form of the Meridian ambassador. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of discomfort that Alan had learned to recognize during diplomatic meetings. "Commander." "Right," Zixtal said, his translator converting the musical Meridian language into flat English. "I had hoped to be gone before this conversation." "What's happening?" Alan demanded, stepping closer to the screen. "Why is the coalition abandoning Earth without warning?" Zixtal's secondary breathing flaps fluttered. "The void swarm has broken. Through the outer defense line at Proxima Centauri. The Coalition Council voted 8 hours ago. Earth's solar system will serve as a buffer zone." "A buffer zone?" Alan's voice dropped dangerously low. "You mean a sacrifice?" "The void swarm cannot be defeated, Commander. They consume entire worlds. The Coalition must protect the core systems where billions more lives are at stake." Zixtal didn't sound apologetic. He sounded practical, as if discussing the weather rather than the abandonment of 8 billion humans. Alan's fist slammed down on the console. "We're part of the Coalition. We have a defense treaty, which the Council has voted to suspend under emergency powers. I am sorry, Commander. Your species showed promise." Zixtal reached toward his control panel. "If it helps, no species has ever stood against the swarm and survived. Running is the only logical choice." The screen went black. Silence fell over the communication center. Alan looked around at the faces of his crew. Shock, betrayal, fear. "Sir," Kelly said quietly, "what do we do now?" Alan straightened his shoulders. "We fight. Alert all Earth governments. I want a full Defense Council meeting in 1 hour." Dr. Olivia Martinez hadn't slept in 36 hours. Her eyes burned as she stared at her computer screen, scrolling through thousands of files the Coalition had accidentally left behind in their rush to evacuate their Earth embassy. "They knew," she whispered, pushing her curly black hair away from her face. "They've known about the void swarm for decades." The laboratory at NASA's Deep Space Research Center was nearly empty. Most scientists had gone home to be with their families after the news broke. The Coalition's betrayal and the approaching alien threat had sent waves of panic across the globe. Olivia took another sip of cold coffee and kept reading. The Coalition had encountered the void swarm 60 years ago. 17 civilizations had already fallen. The Coalition's strategy had always been retreat and sacrifice, offering up less valuable worlds to buy time. She froze, her finger hovering over the screen. There, buried in a technical report, was something the Coalition scientists had discovered, but never acted upon. The Void Swarm Central Units show sensitivity to radiation in the gamma spectrum between 0.87 and 0.92 PV, she read aloud. Exposure causes temporary disruption of hive communication patterns. Olivia grabbed her phone and dialed quickly. "Admiral Grant," she said when a tired voice answered. "I found something in the Coalition data. The swarm has a weakness." Bill Harmon walked the fence line of his Montana ranch as the sun set behind the Rocky Mountains. The radio in his pocket had been broadcasting news all day. Alien allies abandoning, Earth governments declaring states of emergency, military assets being repositioned. At 62, Bill had seen a lot. He'd watched in wonder when the first Coalition ships arrived 15 years ago. He'd celebrated when humanity joined the galactic community. He'd even hosted 2 alien tourists who wanted to see an authentic Earth farm. Now he watched the darkening sky with new eyes scanning for threats. A flash of light caught his attention, too quick for a shooting star, too bright for an airplane. Then another, and another. Small objects were entering the atmosphere, leaving bright trails as they descended. Bill's hand tightened around his flashlight. He wasn't a military man, but he didn't need to be to understand what was happening. The invasion had begun. Admiral Susan Grant stood in the Pentagon's war room, surrounded by screens showing defense positions around the globe. At 58, she had never expected to be in charge of Earth's last stand. The president has authorized full deployment of all strategic assets, she told the assembled military leaders, some present in person, others joining via secure video. As of now, we are at war. Commander Alan Wright's face appeared on the main screen, broadcasting from the space station. Admiral, we've spotted the first wave. Smaller ships, likely scouts. They're entering the atmosphere at multiple points. Any communication attempts? Susan asked. We've tried all frequencies and protocols the coalition gave us. No response. Alan looked exhausted but determined. They're not here to talk. Susan nodded grimly. Then we make Earth too costly to take. I want all orbital platforms weaponized. Commander Wright, you're authorized to convert the civilian satellites, if necessary. Her phone buzzed. A message from Dr. Martinez. Found potential weakness. Need to meet ASAP. We have resources the coalition doesn't know about, Susan told the room. And something they never expected from us. The will to stand and fight. On screens around the world, news programs showed the first images of the alien ships. Dark, asymmetrical shapes against the blue sky, like ink blots spreading across a clean page. In homes and bunkers and emergency centers, humans watched and waited. Unlike the 17 species before them, they weren't running. They had nowhere to go. Earth would stand and fight. Commander Alan Wright returned to the observation window after the emergency meeting. Earth looked peaceful from orbit. Blue oceans, swirling white clouds, green and brown land masses. Home, behind, him. The station hummed with activity as his crew converted scientific equipment into defensive systems. They had limited weapons, limited shields, limited everything, but they had something the coalition had never understood about humans. Limitless determination. His communication officer called out, "Sir, we're detecting more void swarm ships entering the solar system. Dozens. Hundreds of them." Alan watched as the first dark ships appeared in the distance, their shapes unlike anything the coalition had designed. Organic, almost, like giant insects made of metal and shadow. "Send word to Admiral Grant," he said calmly. "First major contact in 30 minutes, and tell Dr. Martinez to hurry with that research." He straightened his uniform and turned to face his crew. "Throughout human history, we've faced overwhelming odds," he said. "This is no different. We fight not because victory is certain, but because the alternative is unthinkable." Outside the window, Earth continued its slow, peaceful rotation, unaware that it was about to become the first, and perhaps last battlefield in humanity's greatest war. 3 weeks had passed since the coalition abandoned Earth. The planet now stood alone against the void swarm, an enemy that had devoured 17 civilizations before them. Military bases around the world had transformed into coordination centers, as humanity prepared for the fight of its existence. Dr. Olivia Martinez wiped sweat from her forehead as she worked in the underground Houston facility. The lab once used for energy research now held 20 scientists working around the clock. Pipes and wires covered the walls. Machines hummed day and night. "The radiation has to be precisely calibrated," Olivia told engineer Paul Rodriguez. "Too weak and it won't affect the swarm. Too strong and—" Paul nodded, understanding the unspoken concern. They had discovered that the void swarm was vulnerable to specific radiation frequencies, but that radiation was also deadly to humans. Any weapon they created would endanger its users. "I've reinforced the shielding on the prototype," Paul said, pointing to a bulky rifle-like device on the testing bench. "It should give the soldier using it about 15 minutes before reaching dangerous exposure levels." Olivia frowned. 15 minutes isn't enough. It's all we've got for now." The lab door opened and Admiral Susan Grant walked in. Her uniform was wrinkled and dark circles had formed under her eyes. Like everyone else, she had barely slept since the invasion began. "Please tell me you have good news, Doctor," Susan said. Olivia gestured to the prototype weapon. "It works in testing. The radiation disrupts their communication patterns, but it comes with a cost." "Everything in this war comes with a cost," Susan replied grimly. We've lost 23 cities worldwide. The swarm is establishing processing centers in each location. Paul looked up sharply. Processing centers? They're stripping resources and we think they're collecting genetic samples from captured humans. We don't fully understand their purpose yet. Olivia pushed away from her desk. We need more time. That's the one thing we don't have, Susan said. I'm authorizing production of 200 radiation weapons based on your prototype. We'll warn the soldiers about the risks. They'll die, Olivia whispered. Susan's face hardened. Many are dying already. At least this way, they take some of the enemy with them. Captain Dwayne Clark lay flat on his stomach at the edge of a rooftop in what used to be downtown Atlanta. His squadron of 12 Special Forces soldiers were spread across several buildings, all watching the alien structure that had grown in the center of the city. The Void Swarm ships had landed 3 days ago, unfolding like terrible flowers to reveal their true forms. They weren't ships at all, but massive creatures, part machine, part biological material. Now they were constructing a tower that pulsed with sickly purple light. Alpha team in position, Dwayne whispered into his radio. Visual on the target. Bravo team ready, came the response from Lieutenant Kathy Winters on a nearby building. Dwayne adjusted his scope, focusing on the aliens moving around the base of the tower. They were tall, insect-like creatures with multiple limbs and glossy, black exoskeletons. Some had tool-like appendages, while others carried what looked like weapons. Remember the objective, Dwayne said. We need to capture one of their scout ships intact. Command wants to understand how they communicate. Roger that, Kathy responded. Distraction team is ready. Dwayne took a deep breath. Execute in 3, 2, 1. On the far side of the city, explosions lit up the night. The Void Swarm guards turned toward the distraction, several racing off to investigate. Now, Dwayne ordered, leaping to his feet. His team rushed forward, using grappling equipment to descend from the buildings. They moved with practiced precision toward the smaller scout ship parked near the tower. The first aliens noticed them when they were halfway there. Strange high-pitched sounds filled the air, their alarm system. Dwayne fired his rifle, the bullets punching through the aliens' armor at the joint areas. They're coming from the east side, Kathy shouted through the radio. At least 30, Dwayne reached the scout ship first, placing explosive charges on what they believed was the entry point. Fire in the hole. The small explosion blew open a hatch. Dwayne and 3 soldiers rushed inside while the rest of the team formed a perimeter. Inside, the ship, everything was organic and machine blended together. Controls pulsed with light and surfaces felt warm to the touch. Plant the disruptors, Dwayne ordered. The team placed small devices on what looked like important systems. These were designed by Dr. Martinez's team to temporarily disable rather than destroy. Outside gunfire intensified. Captain, we're losing ground. Kathy's voice crackled through the radio. Peters is down. Gonzalez too. Start the extraction, Dwayne replied. We've got what we came for. The scout ship's systems dimmed as the disruptors activated. Dwayne felt the vessel shudder beneath his feet. It's working. Back to the rendezvous point. They fought their way out, each step costing them. Of the 12 who started the mission, only 7 made it back to the hidden transport trucks, but they had done it. Captured an alien scout ship that could reveal the secrets of the Void Swarm's hive mind. As they drove away, Dwayne looked back at Atlanta's burning skyline. The city was lost, but maybe, just maybe, they had gained something that could save many others. Ambassador Carol White walked slowly through the abandoned Galactic Embassy, her footsteps echoing in the empty halls. 3 weeks ago, this building had been filled with representatives from 26 alien species. Now only she remained, Earth's voice to a galaxy that had turned its back. A noise from the communication center caught her attention. Carol reached for the small pistol at her hip. She'd never needed a weapon as an ambassador before the invasion. Show yourself, she called out. A thin figure stepped from the shadows. It wasn't human. The skin was pale yellow with faint green stripes, and the eyes were too large, set wide on a narrow face. Ambassador White, the alien said, its translator converting the words to English. I am Vex, trader from the Centauri systems. Carol kept her weapon raised. All coalition members left Earth. Why are you still here? Vex's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. I am not well regarded by the Coalition, and I was curious. No species has ever stood against the Void Swarm before. I wanted to see what humans would do. We're fighting for our survival while your people ran, Carol said bitterly. My people ran long before yours even reached the stars, Vex replied. But I stayed, and I bring information that might help. Carol lowered her weapon slightly. What information? The Void Swarm isn't just consuming resources. They're collecting genetic material from every world they invade. They evolve by incorporating the strengths of other species. Vex stepped closer. But they've never encountered humans before. Why would humans be any different? Because your species has something rare in the galaxy: genetic diversity. Most evolved species reach uniformity. Humans contain more variation than any spacefaring race the Coalition has encountered. For the first time in weeks, Carol felt a flicker of hope. And this matters how? It may confuse their assimilation process. Vex's large eyes blinked slowly. It's not much, but it's something. And I have more to share if you're willing to listen. Carol holstered her weapon. I'll listen. Right now, Earth needs every advantage it can get. Outside the embassy window, fighter jets screamed overhead, heading toward another battle against the invaders. One small alien and one human stood together, an unlikely alliance in humanity's darkest hour. The first major battle for Earth's orbit began at dawn. Admiral Susan Grant stood in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching as red dots representing Void Swarm ships closed in on the blue dots of Earth's defense fleet. All ships, report ready, Admiral, Lieutenant Kelly Barnes said, her voice steady despite the tension filling the room. Radiation weapons are armed and crews are wearing protective gear. Susan nodded grimly. The experimental weapons developed by Dr. Martinez's team had been rushed into production. Every soldier using them knew the risk: radiation poisoning that would kill them within weeks even with the best protective gear available. Launch the attack, Susan ordered. May God help us all. On screens covering the wall, Earth's remaining spaceships moved to intercept the Void Swarm. Fighter jets launched from aircraft carriers. Ground-based missiles streaked into the sky. The battle had begun. Dr. Olivia Martinez stared at the blood sample under her microscope. She had been working for 72 hours straight, fueled by coffee and determination. The captured scout ship had provided crucial information about the Void Swarm's biology. Look at this, she said to Paul Rodriguez, who was nearly asleep at his desk. The swarm cells are trying to absorb the human DNA, but they're struggling. Paul rubbed his eyes and joined her at the microscope. What does it mean? Vex was right. Our genetic diversity is confusing them. Olivia straightened, excitement in her tired eyes. Their strength is adaptation through absorption, but human DNA is too varied. It's causing errors in their assimilation process. Can we use this? Paul asked. Olivia was already moving to her computer. We can create a virus, something that uses human DNA as a carrier. If we can introduce it into their hive mind network, it could disrupt their entire collective, Paul finished. But how do we deliver it? Olivia's fingers paused on the keyboard. Someone would need to bring it to their mothership. The largest Void Swarm vessel in orbit. They both knew what that meant. A suicide mission. I'll do it, Olivia said quietly. It's my research, my responsibility. Paul shook his head. The military won't allow it. You're too valuable. They'll send soldiers. Who? Will die anyway, Olivia replied, returning to her work. At least this way it means something. Captain Dwayne Clark and his team had spent days studying the alien language patterns captured from the scout ship. The Void Swarm didn't communicate with words but with complex frequencies, like music but far more complicated. If we broadcast these sequences, Dwayne explained to his remaining team members, we might confuse their ships, make them think they're receiving orders from their commanders. Lieutenant Kathy Winters nodded. False orders to divide their fleet? Exactly. Dwayne pointed to the map showing Void Swarm positions around the world. We focus on these three major clusters, If we can split them up, our fighters have a better chance. The plan was dangerous. They would need to get close enough to broadcast the false signals, close enough to be detected and attacked. Everyone understand the risks? Dwayne asked. The soldiers nodded. No one spoke of survival. They were past that now. Let's move out. Ambassador Carol White and Vex approached the Coalition outpost hidden on one of Jupiter's moons. The small spacecraft Vex had provided barely fit the two of them, but it had gotten them past the Void Swarm blockade. They won't welcome me, Vex warned as they prepared to dock. And they may shoot you on sight. Carol checked the data drive in her pocket. They'll listen when they see what we've brought. Proof the swarm can be fought. The outpost's guns tracked them as they approached. Carol broadcast on all frequencies. This is Ambassador Carol White of Earth. I come with vital information about defeating the Void Swarm. For long moments, there was no response. Then a voice crackled through the radio. Dock at Bay 4, any sudden movements and we open fire. Vex guided their ship into the small docking bay. As the airlock cycled, Carol whispered, "Remember the plan. We need allies, not just an audience." When the door opened, they faced a dozen armed aliens, young members of various coalition species, who had been left to guard this outpost while their fleets retreated to the core worlds. A tall, four-armed Arcturian stepped forward. "I am Commander Zool. Why have you come?" Carol stood straight. "Because Earth has found a way to hurt the Void Swarm, and we need your help." Pilot Lisa Johnson flew her fighter jet through the burning skies above Chicago. Below her, the once great city was partly transformed by the alien invaders. Strange structures grew from the ruins of skyscrapers. Processing centers harvested Earth's resources. "Eagle Squadron, form up," she ordered, her voice calm despite the chaos. "Target the harvester at the city center." 6 jets moved into formation, behind her. They were the last air defense for the entire Midwest region. Their mission was to destroy the massive Void Swarm harvester before it could begin processing the city's population. Lisa's radar warned of approaching enemy fighters, small, fast craft shaped like dark teardrops. "Incoming from the north, weapons hot." The sky erupted in explosions as the human jets clashed with alien fighters. Lisa's hands moved instinctively on the controls, her jet rolling and firing. 2 enemy craft exploded. A third slammed into one of her squadron members. "Johnson, we're not going to make it through their defenses," her wingman called. "There are too many." Lisa watched as another of her pilots went down in flames. An idea formed. Terrible but necessary. "All remaining craft, give me your missiles, then retreat to base," she ordered. "What are you doing, Captain?" "Clearing a path." Lisa's voice was steady. "That's an order." One by one, her squadron members transferred missile control to her jet, then pulled away. Lisa now controlled the firepower of all remaining aircraft. She aimed her jet directly at the harvester and pushed the engines to maximum. The G-forces pressed her into her seat as enemy fire streaked past her wings. "This is for Earth," Lisa whispered, launching every missile at once before ramming her fuel-laden jet into the harvester's core. The explosion lit up the Chicago skyline. The harvester collapsed, its alien technology dissolving without the control signal. Lisa Johnson was gone, but the city had gained precious time to evacuate thousands more people. In rural Montana, Bill Harmon led a group of farmers and townspeople armed with hunting rifles and homemade explosives. They called themselves Earth's Last Line. Ordinary citizens fighting back against ground forces while the military focused on bigger targets. "They're coming over the ridge," Bill told the 30 men and women hiding in the tree line. "Remember, aim for the joints in their armor." The aliens moved with inhuman grace, scanning for human heat signatures. They weren't expecting resistance here, so far from major cities. "Now!" Bill shouted. Rifle fire erupted from the trees. Explosives detonated under alien feet. The surprise attack worked. 7 invaders fell before they could respond. Similar scenes played out across the globe as humans proved they would fight for every inch of their world. The Void Swarm, accustomed to species that surrendered or fled, had never encountered such widespread resistance. They were learning that humans didn't just fight with their military. They fought with everything they had. Dr. Olivia Martinez stood before Admiral Susan Grant and the Joint Military Council, her research notes spread across the table. Dark circles under her eyes showed her exhaustion, but her voice remained strong. "The virus is ready," she said. "It carries modified human DNA that will confuse and corrupt the Void Swarm's hive mind, but it must be delivered directly to their central neural cluster." Susan frowned. "You mean their mothership? The one in high orbit surrounded by hundreds of fighter craft?" "Yes. And it can't be sent by missile or drone. Their defenses would detect and destroy it." Olivia took a deep breath. "Someone has to carry it in." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what she was proposing. Colonel Joe Ramirez, a tall man with a weathered face and 20 years of Special Forces experience, stood up. "My team will take it." "Joe," Susan began. "With respect, Admiral, this is what we do." His voice was calm, certain. "Dr. Martinez has created the weapon. Now we deliver it." Olivia looked at the soldier gratefully. "The carrier needs to be injected with the virus beforehand. It will make you part of the weapon. The swarm will detect regular human DNA, but this modified version should slip past their sensors." "Will it hurt?" Joe asked plainly. Olivia hesitated. "Yes, very much." Joe nodded once. "When do we leave?" The infiltration team prepared in silence. Colonel Joe Ramirez and 5 soldiers from different Special Forces units checked their equipment one last time. The medical team had already injected them with the modified virus, and they could feel it changing them from within. A constant burning sensation under their skin. 30 minutes to launch, a voice announced over the intercom. In the corner of the room, Dr. Martinez made final adjustments to 6 small devices. "These will protect the virus until you reach the central chamber," she explained. "After that, the swarm's own network will spread it." The soldiers attached the devices to their tactical vests. No one spoke about the fact that this was a one-way mission. Joe checked his team. Sergeant Laura Reed, demolitions expert. Corporal Rick Foster, communications specialist. Private Sam Cook, tech expert. Lieutenant Ben Morris and Captain Ali Chen, both with advanced combat training. All volunteers. All already dying from the virus. "Admiral on deck," someone called. The team stood at attention as Susan Grant entered the room. She looked at each soldier in turn, memorizing their faces. "The Void Swarm thinks we're like all the other species they've consumed, that will break and run." Susan's voice was low but carried to every corner of the room. "You're about to prove them wrong. Humanity doesn't surrender, and we don't abandon our home." She saluted them. "Good hunting." The stolen Void Swarm transport ship moved silently through space, its systems broadcasting the correct identification codes thanks to Captain Dwayne Clark's earlier mission. Inside, Colonel Joe Ramirez and his team checked their weapons one last time. "We're approaching the mothership," Lieutenant Ben Morris said from the pilot's seat. "No sign they've detected us yet." Through the view screen, the Void Swarm mothership loomed enormously. Unlike the smaller craft, it wasn't sleek or predatory. It resembled a massive, misshapen tumor, bulging and irregular with pulsing light beneath its surface. "Remember the plan," Joe told his team. "We dock, we move to the central chamber, we deploy the virus. Any questions?" There were none. These soldiers had accepted their fate. The transport ship docked without incident. When the airlock opened, Joe was the first to step inside the mothership. The interior was warm and humid, with surfaces that seemed half mechanical, half organic. Lights pulsed along the walls like blood through veins. "This way," Sam Cook whispered, following the signal on his detector. "The neural cluster should be 2 levels down." They moved silently through curving corridors, encountering few swarm drones. Those they did meet barely reacted to them, the virus in their blood masking their human signatures. "It's working," Laura Reed said softly. "They can't tell we're human." The deeper they went, the stranger the ship became. Walls pulsed with more intensity. The air grew thicker, harder to breathe, and then they found the processing chambers. Transparent pods lined a massive chamber, each containing what appeared to be different alien species in various stages of change. Some were clearly dead, their bodies partly dissected. Others still moved, their features slowly morphing into something resembling the Void Swarm. "They're studying them," Rick Foster whispered in horror. "Learning how to absorb their traits." Joe forced himself to look away. "Keep moving. We can't help them now." As they descended to the lower level, the burning sensation from the virus intensified. Allie Chen stumbled, blood trickling from her nose. "The virus is accelerating," she said, wiping the blood away. "We don't have much time." They reached a massive door that pulsed with energy. Sam attached a device to what appeared to be a control panel. After a moment, the door slid open. The central chamber was unlike anything they had imagined. A vast, spherical room filled with a web of glowing, living circuitry. At its center floated what looked like a brain the size of a small house. Not solid, but composed of shifting, flowing material that changed colors as they watched. "The neural cluster," Olivia's voice came through their earpieces. She was monitoring, from Earth. "That's it, the core of their hive mind." Security systems finally recognized the threat. Alarms blared and the door behind them sealed shut. Swarm guards, larger versions of the drones they'd seen on Earth, began to pour from side passages. "Defensive positions," Joe ordered. The team formed a circle, weapons ready. The guards charged and the humans opened fire. Bullets tore through alien flesh, and the special ammunition containing trace amounts of the disrupting radiation caused the creatures to convulse before dying. Sam worked frantically to reach the neural cluster, while the others provided cover, fire. "I can't get close enough," he shouted. "The field around it repels anything with mass." Olivia's voice crackled through their comms. "The virus itself needs to make direct contact with the neural material. One of you has to—" Joe understood. He looked at his team, all fighting bravely against overwhelming odds. Ben had already fallen. Rick was badly wounded. "Cover me," Joe said, removing his equipment and weapons. "I'm going in." Laura nodded, understanding his plan. "It's been an honor, Colonel." Joe ran toward the brain-like structure, dodging enemy fire. The burning inside him had become unbearable, the virus reaching its final stage. As he approached the energy field surrounding the neural cluster, he felt his body begin to break down. With his last strength, Joe threw himself into the field. Pain beyond anything he had ever experienced tore through him as the field tried to repel him. But the virus in his blood was already changing him, making him compatible with the swarm's biology. He pushed through, his body dissolving as it made contact with the neural material. Joe Ramirez's last thought was of Earth, blue oceans, green forests, and 8 billion humans who might now have a chance to survive. Then he was gone, absorbed into the hive mind. But the virus went with him. Across Earth, people watched their screens as strange events unfolded in space. The Void Swarm ships, once moving with perfect coordination, began to drift aimlessly. Some fired on each other. Others simply shut down, floating dead in orbit. In the underground command center, Admiral Susan Grant stared at the tactical display with disbelief and growing hope. "It's working," she whispered. "The virus is spreading through their network." Communication Officer Doug Peterson looked up from his station. "Admiral, we're receiving signals from the infiltration team's ship." Susan rushed over. "Any survivors?" "Captain Allie Chen and Sergeant Laura Reed," Doug replied. "They're reporting that Colonel Ramirez successfully delivered the virus to the neural cluster. He merged with it." Susan closed her eyes briefly. "Get those women home. Then prepare all remaining forces for a final push. We hit them while they're confused." Around the world, military commanders received the order. Fighter jets launched. Ground, troops advanced on alien positions. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity attacked with coordination and purpose while the enemy floundered. On the Void Swarm mothership, something unexpected was happening. Colonel Joe Ramirez had ceased to exist as a human, but his consciousness hadn't been completely destroyed. The virus carrying modified human DNA had created a bridge between his mind and the swarm's collective intelligence. Deep in the neural cluster, Joe found himself still aware, still thinking. The void swarm's collective mind surrounded him, alien, vast, and terrifying. But the virus was doing its work, creating chaos in the perfectly ordered hive. Joe couldn't control his body anymore. He had none. But he discovered he could push thoughts into the chaos, adding to the confusion. Images of Earth, memories of humanity's stubborn resistance, the concept of individual will versus collective control. The swarm had never encountered this kind of attack before. Physical weapons they understood. But this invasion of their shared consciousness by a single human mind, backed by the genetic diversity of an entire species, was something new. The mothership shuddered as control systems failed. Throughout the vessel, confused swarm drones attacked each other or simply shut down. In what remained of Joe's fading human consciousness, he felt satisfaction. He had become a virus himself, infecting the enemy from within. Captain Dwayne Clark led the assault on the Void Swarm transport ship. His team moved quickly through the corridors, encountering minimal resistance from the confused alien crew. Life signs ahead, Lieutenant Kathy Winters reported, checking her scanner. Not human, lots of them. They broke through to a large chamber and stopped in shock. Dozens of transparent pods lined the walls, each containing an alien being. Unlike the processing chambers on the mothership, these aliens appeared to be in stasis, not being changed. They're prisoners, Dwayne realized, from other worlds. His team moved through the room, examining the pods. The aliens inside represented species they had never seen before, some humanoid, others completely foreign in form. Some of these might be from worlds the swarm consumed years ago, Kathy said. Species the Coalition thought were extinct. Dwayne made a quick decision. We're taking them with us. Start the release process. As his team worked to free the captives, Dwayne couldn't help but wonder how the galaxy would change when they learned that humans had not only survived the Void Swarm, but had saved beings that the Coalition had abandoned, to die. Ambassador Carol White stood on the bridge of the Arcturian ship as it entered Earth's orbit. Behind her vessel, 23 ships from various Coalition species followed. A small fleet, but a powerful symbol. We're receiving a transmission from Earth Defense Command, the Arcturian communications officer announced. Admiral Grant's face appeared on the main screen. Ambassador White, she said with surprise. We weren't expecting you back so soon, and with company. Carol smiled, the first real smile in months. Admiral, may I present Commander Zool of the Arcturian Guard and representatives from 7 other Coalition species. They've come to help. Susan's expression hardened. A bit late, aren't they? We were wrong to abandon Earth, Commander Zool said, stepping forward. His forearms were held in the Arcturian gesture of apology. The young races of the Coalition voted against the Council's decision. When Ambassador White showed us proof that humans had found a way to fight the swarm, we came immediately. We bring shield technology, added a small bird-like Procyon engineer, and weapons we have been too afraid to use until now. Susan studied them for a long moment. Your help is welcome, she finally said. But understand this. Earth will never again trust those who abandoned us. Any future alliance will be on new terms. Carol nodded in agreement. Earth had earned the right to set those terms. The final battle for Earth unfolded over 3 days. The Void Swarm, still disorganized from the virus attack, could not coordinate their defense. Human forces, bolstered by the returning Coalition ships, pushed forward on all fronts. Admiral Susan Grant directed the space battle from the orbital command station. Below her, Earth still showed the scars of invasion. Cities in ruins, vast areas transformed by alien technology. But the planet remained, and its people fought on. The mothership's defenses are down, reported Lieutenant Kelly Barnes. Shall we destroy it? Susan considered this. The virus had done its work, but the mothership still housed the central intelligence of the swarm. If it survived, it might eventually recover. No, she decided. We capture it. Dr. Martinez believes Colonel Ramirez may still exist in some form within their network, and we need to understand this enemy to make sure they never threaten anyone again. Special teams boarded the mothership, securing it section by section. In the central chamber, they found the neural cluster changed, no longer pulsing with alien colors but glowing with a steady blue light. When Dr. Olivia Martinez finally entered the chamber, she approached the cluster carefully. Her instruments detected something impossible, patterns in the neural activity that matched human brainwaves. "Joe?" she whispered. "Are you in there?" The light pulsed once, twice, 3 times. A deliberate response. Tears filled Olivia's eyes. "We'll find a way to communicate," she promised. "We won't abandon you." 5 years later, Bill Harmon's Montana ranch hosted representatives from 27 alien species. His fields, once trampled by fighting, now grew tall with wheat. The barn had been expanded into a meeting hall where the new Galactic Defense Council gathered. Ambassador Carol White stood before the assembled delegates. Earth had changed in the years since the invasion. Humanity had rebuilt cities, incorporated, salvaged alien technology, and established themselves as leaders in the reformed galactic community. "Today we honor those who stood their ground when retreat seemed the only option," Carol said. "We remember that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about facing fear and still doing what must be done." A monument was unveiled, a simple granite column with names carved in many languages, the fallen of all species who had eventually joined the fight against the Void Swarm. At the top, Colonel Joe Ramirez's name stood alone. The man who still existed in the captured neural cluster had become a bridge between species, his consciousness slowly teaching them to understand the IC Swarm's technology while retaining his humanity. As the delegates filed past the monument, a young Arcturian approached Carol. "My teachers say that before the invasion, humans were considered primitive by coalition standards," the alien said. "Is that true?" Carol smiled. "Technology doesn't define advancement. Courage does. Sacrifice does. Standing by your allies does." "Me?" Arcturian nodded thoughtfully. "That is why all our military academies now study Earth tactics and philosophy." Carol looked out over the gathering. Once mighty species now learning from humans, the allies who had fled now returned with respect, rather than condescension. Earth had suffered greatly, losing nearly a third of its population. But humanity had proven something to the galaxy and to themselves. When every species fled the invasion, only humanity stayed to fight. And in doing so, they had saved not just themselves, but perhaps the soul of galactic civilization itself.